A powerful businessman finds a homeless young woman and decides to help her, unaware that she is hiding a device that could destroy his empire. But when he discovers who is behind it all, he faces a betrayal that will change their lives forever. The rain fell incessantly on the streets of São Paulo, a symphony of drops hitting the pavement. Arthur Montero, a businessman known for his impeccable reputation and luxurious lifestyle, left his corporate building adjusting the lapel of his coat. It had been a long day of exhausting meetings, and all he wanted was to return to the tranquility of his mansion. However, something unusual caught his attention as he crossed the street. Near a garbage container, a young woman was rummaging through it with desperate movements. Her clothes were soaked and her dark hair fell messily over her face. Arthur stopped, intrigued and surprised. It was rare to see someone so young in such conditions in front of such an exclusive place. Something about her, perhaps the vulnerability she radiated, prompted him to act. "Hey, wait," he said, coming closer, his voice firm but not threatening. The young woman looked up, revealing dark eyes that flashed between distrust and fear. She hugged a backpack she carried with her, as if it were her greatest treasure. "I'm not doing anything wrong," she replied in a defiant tone. Arthur watched the scene for a moment. He couldn't just continue on his way, not with that image burning in his mind. His instincts told him that this situation was different. "Come with me," he offered after a brief silence. "What? Why should I trust you?" she replied, taking a step back. Arthur let out a sigh. He knew his proposal seemed strange, but he also knew he couldn't just leave it there. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help you. Look, this isn't a conversation we should be having here, in the rain. Come, I'll take you somewhere safe." After a moment of hesitation, the young woman agreed with a slight nod. They got into Arthur's car, an elegant vehicle that contrasted drastically with the appearance of her companion. During the ride, she remained silent, clinging to her backpack as she watched the illuminated streets pass by like a dream. When they arrived at the mansion, the sheer scale of the place left her speechless. The gleaming marble floors, the hanging chandeliers, and the spaciousness of the rooms seemed to belong to another world. Arthur noticed her reaction, and for some reason he didn't fully understand, felt compelled to apologize. "You can stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll see how we can help you. What's your name?" The young woman hesitated before answering. "Sophia." "Okay, Sophia, I'm Arthur. You'll be safe here." She nodded cautiously, still holding her backpack. Despite the cozy warmth of the house, the tension between them was palpable. Arthur led her to a room so she could rest. As she closed the door, she couldn't help but wonder what story lay behind that lost look and what secrets the backpack she carried so zealously hid. That night, they both tried to sleep, although their minds were still filled with questions and an inexplicable feeling that their paths were about to change forever. Dawn arrived silently at Arthur's mansion. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the heavy curtains, illuminating the bedroom where Sophia was sleeping soundly. Her face, relaxed in sleep, contrasted with the tension she had shown the night before. Arthur, however, had spent much of the night awake, unable to stop thinking about the young woman in her strange situation. He decided to act. Walking silently to the room where Sophia was resting, he carefully opened the door. On a chair next to the bed was her backpack, the object she had clung to so tightly since the moment she found it. Arthur took it, feeling an unexpected weight inside it. It wasn't just ordinary clothes or belongings. There was something else. Cautiously, he carried the backpack into his study. There, in the privacy of his own space, he began to sort through its contents. He found worn clothing, a notebook with notes written in hurried handwriting, and at the back, a technological device that immediately caught his attention. It was compact, metallic, with blinking lights and a screen displaying encrypted data. Arthur frowned, intrigued. This was no ordinary device. What was something so sophisticated doing in the hands of a young woman who was clearly on the run? His thoughts were interrupted by a sound at the door. Turning, he found Sophia staring at him from the threshold. Her dark eyes glittered with fury and a hint of fear. "Aha, give me back my backpack," he said in a firm tone that belied his youth. Arthur placed the device on his desk, raising his hands in a calming gesture. "I'm not trying to hurt you, Sophia. I just wanted to understand what's going on." This device, it's not something common. Where did you get it? It's none of your business, she replied, moving quickly forward and retrieving the backpack. Her gaze met Arthur's, and for a moment, the silence between them was thick. Arthur sighed. He knew that pushing her would do no good. Listen, Sophia, if you're in trouble, I need to know. I can't help you if you don't trust me. She hugged her backpack, frowning. I don't need your help. Just let me go. But Arthur wasn't about to let her go, not without answers. While he respected her mistrust, his instincts told him there was something bigger at stake. He decided not to push her any further for the moment, but it was clear that their relationship would be complicated. While Sophia returned to her room, Arthur remained in his study, staring at the closed door. The device continued to occupy his thoughts. Something in him told him that the encounter with Sophia had not been a mere coincidence, and that the mysterious device would be key to understanding everything that was happening. The day was passing slowly in Arthur's mansion. After the tense exchange in the study, Sophia had remained secluded in her room, while Arthur tried to concentrate on his pending matters. However, the young woman's presence continued to occupy his mind. There was something about her defensive posture, the way she protected her backpack, that made him feel like he was dealing with a puzzle he couldn't ignore. He decided not to approach her directly and instead asked Luciana, his efficient assistant, to prepare some food and make sure Sophia was comfortable. Luciana, a practical and trustworthy woman, looked at Arthur with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Who is she, Arthur? She asked while organizing a tray with tea and sandwiches. Arthur crossed his arms, thinking, I don't know. I found her last night near the tower. She was alone, soaked, and looked desperate. I couldn't just leave her there. Luciana raised an eyebrow. And what do you plan to do now? You don't seem like someone who wants to stay long. Arthur sighed. First, I want to know who you are and why you are here. Then we'll see. Luciana nodded, though her gaze remained wary. She carried the tray into Sophia's room, knocking lightly before entering. The young woman was sitting on the edge of the bed, her backpack at her feet. Despite her reserved attitude, she accepted the food with a slight nod of thanks. Luciana tried to start a conversation, but received nothing but monosyllabic responses. Later, Arthur decided to try it himself. He sat in the main room, looking through papers, while Sophia wandered timidly through the halls. Finally, she appeared at the door of the room, clutching her backpack as always. Do you want to sit down? Arthur asked, pointing to the couch in front of him. She hesitated, but finally agreed, although she kept a prudent distance. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, he began calmly. But if you do decide to leave, I want to make sure you'll be okay. Is there someone I can contact for you? Anywhere you want to go back to? Sophia shook her head. I don't have anyone, he said quietly but firmly. Arthur waited a moment before speaking again. I understand that you don't want to talk to me, but if there's anything I can do for you, just say it. Sophia looked at him for a moment, as if evaluating him. Then, without looking at him directly, she murmured, I'm not who you think. I'm not weak. I don't need your pity. Arthur tilted his head, surprised by her response. I never said you were, Sophia. In fact, I think you're a lot stronger than you look. But even the strong need help sometimes. She didn't respond, but something in her expression softened slightly. That small opening was enough for Arthur, who decided not to press her further. As the afternoon progressed, Luciana watched the interaction from a distance, still with some reservations. The bond between Arthur and Sophia was beginning to form, although it was full of doubts and uncertainties. But the fragile balance between them was about to be interrupted by news that would change the course of events. The calm that had begun to settle in Arthur's mansion was abruptly interrupted when he received an urgent call in his private office. It was an old security contact, alerting him of something disturbing. Arthur, your name has appeared on a clandestine channel. It seems that someone is looking for information about a young woman who might be with you. Do you know anything about this? Asked the voice on the other end of the line. Arthur felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't answer immediately, but his mind went straight to Sophia. After hanging up, he headed to the study, where he began to investigate. He used his connections and technological resources to find out more about the device he had found in Sophia's backpack. The data he discovered was alarming. The device contained encrypted information that exposed a far-reaching criminal network. The same network, to his surprise, seemed to have ties to some divisions of his own company. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, Vera, a woman of intimidating presence and calculating countenance, was reviewing the images captured by her informants. The information was clear. Sophia had been seen entering Arthur Montero's corporate tower. Vera, leader of a criminal network and the true owner of the device, she was not willing to lose what she considered hers. "Find her and bring me the device," Vera ordered her men. "And if Arthur gets in the way, show no mercy." At the mansion, Arthur couldn't ignore the impending danger. He knew he couldn't face this situation alone, so he decided to share some of what he knew with Luciana. "This is beyond what I imagined. The device Sophia has is the key to dismantling a dangerous network, but that also means she is in grave danger." Luciana, who had maintained a skeptical stance until then, understood the gravity of the situation. Her experience as Arthur's personal assistant included handling crises, but nothing of this magnitude. "What are you planning to do?" he asked. Arthur was quick to respond. "Protect her, no matter the cost." Meanwhile, Sophia, oblivious to the details, was beginning to let her guard down. She had noticed that Arthur was genuinely trying to help her, although she still didn't dare to trust him completely. However, that night, when she crossed the hall to get a glass of water, she overheard parts of the conversation between Arthur and Luciana. "We can't underestimate them, Luciana. Vera won't stop until she gets what she wants," said Arthur. Sophia stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding. Vera's name was enough to bring back a flood of painful memories. She knew who she was and what she was capable of. Her instincts told her to run away before it was too late. However, before she could act, Arthur found her in the hallway. "Were you listening?" he asked, although his tone was not reproachful, but concerned. Sophia nodded slowly. "You don't understand what's at stake. If I stay here, you'll be in danger too." Arthur shook his head. "If what you're facing is as bad as I think it is, I'm not going to leave you alone. This isn't just about you anymore. We're in this together now." The determination in his voice left Sophia speechless. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone was willing to face her demons alongside her. Despite the fear, a small spark of hope began to emerge. But the danger was closer than either of them imagined. The tension in the mansion grew with each passing hour. Arthur kept searching for information about the criminal network, while Sophia seemed to be torn between trusting him or keeping her secrets. That afternoon, as they both shared an awkward silence in the main room, Arthur decided to break the barrier. "Sophia, I need you to tell me the truth, as much as you can. What's on that device can ruin lives, but it can also save them. I can't protect you if I don't know who we're dealing with." She stared at him, her hands clutching her backpack as always. She seemed to measure her words before speaking. "That device belongs to Vera," she began, her voice thick with suppressed emotion. "My father, he worked for her. He was an executive at your company. He didn't know what he was involved in until it was too late. When he tried to get out, Vera deleted him." Arthur felt a weight fall on him. Sophia continued, her voice breaking slightly. "When she died, I found that device hidden in our things. I knew it was important, but I didn't understand why. Vera has been chasing me ever since, and I can't let her get it back. It's the only evidence I have against her." Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, processing the information. The idea that his company could be involved in something so dirty made his stomach turn. "Did your father work at Montero and Asociados?" he asked carefully. Sophia nodded. "He was a manager in one of your divisions. I don't know how many others are involved, but Vera has influence everywhere." Arthur stood up, pacing the room. He understood now why Sophia was so determined to protect the device, and why so many people were interested in getting it back. It was more than just a piece of technology. It was a key to unlocking a corrupt system that had somehow flourished under his own watch. "This changes everything," he muttered to himself before turning to Sophia. "I promise I'll get to the bottom of this. But we need to be careful. If Vera is as close as I think, we don't have much time." Sophia's gaze softened, though she was still cautious. Something about Arthur's determination gave her a confidence she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, she considered that perhaps she wasn't entirely alone in this fight. In parallel, Arthur asked Luciana to dig deeper into the company's records, looking for connections between Vera and any of its current or past executives. Meanwhile, he used his own contacts to reinforce the mansion's security. He knew that a confrontation with Vera was inevitable, but he was not going to back down. That night, as the two retired to rest, a temporary sense of calm filled the house. Yet the echo of Sophia's words continued to resonate in Arthur's mind. His company, his legacy, was stained, and now it was his responsibility to clean that stain, not just for Sophia, but for himself. Somewhere in the city, Vera received a report from his men. "We know where they are, but Arthur Montero won't be easy to take down." Vera smiled coldly, her eyes shining with determination. "Then let's do it our way. Get ready. It's time to end this game." The final showdown was brewing, and both Arthur and Sophia knew that the next decisions would determine their fate. The night at the mansion was eerily quiet. Arthur kept going through the data collected by Luciana, looking for patterns that connected Vera to the executives at his company. Sophia, for her part, remained in her room, reflecting on everything she had confessed. She knew she was involving Arthur in greater danger, but she also understood that alone she would have no chance against Vera. Near midnight, an unexpected message arrived on Arthur's personal phone. It was from an unknown number and contained a short note. "We know you have what we're looking for. We'll meet tomorrow at the Solaris Cafe at 12 ASO. Come alone, or she'll suffer the consequences." Arthur frowned. Although the message didn't say it explicitly, it was clear that they were referring to Sophia. It was a threat, and he wasn't going to take it lightly. He decided to share the situation with Luciana, who reacted with the same concern. "This is clearly a trap," Luciana warned. "You can't go alone, Arthur. Vera doesn't play fair." "I know, but I can't ignore it," Arthur replied, his voice firm. "If I don't show up, they might attack in another way. We need to stay one step ahead." Together, they came up with a plan. Luciana, using her resources and contacts, would ensure that the meeting was monitored from afar. In addition, Arthur conducted a review of the device in the hopes that they could use it to their advantage. Sophia, though initially reluctant, agreed to assist with some technical details about the device, demonstrating a surprising intelligence that impressed both Arthur and Luciana. The next day, Arthur arrived punctually at the Solaris Cafe. The place was small and discreet, perfect for a meeting that required discretion. Sitting at a table in the back, there was a burly man who clearly didn't belong there. His eyes fixed on Arthur as soon as he walked through the door. "Where is the device?" the man asked in a low but menacing tone as Arthur sat down across from him. Arthur, keeping his cool, responded with a measured smile. "Before I hand it over, I want assurances that Sophia will be safe." The man let out a dry laugh. "There are no guarantees in this game, Montero, but if you want to live another day, you'd better cooperate." Meanwhile, Luciana watched from a nearby vehicle, monitoring the scene through a surveillance device. She had warned Arthur to be prepared to act quickly if anything went wrong. At the mansion, Sophia couldn't stay still. She felt that something terrible was about to happen, and despite Arthur's instructions to stay safe, she made the impulsive decision to follow them. Using a GPS device she had found among Luciana's things, she tracked Arthur's location and left without warning. Back at the cafe, tension was mounting. Arthur was trying to buy time, but the man in front of him wasn't having any fun. "This is your last chance," he threatened while signaling to other men waiting nearby. It was at that moment that Sophia appeared at the door, drawing everyone's attention. Arthur saw her and his heart sank. "Sophia, no!" he shouted, standing up. Chaos erupted within seconds. Vera's men tried to corner Sophia, but Luciana, who had anticipated a move like this, sent reinforcements who arrived just in time. A chase broke out through the surrounding streets, with Arthur and Sophia trying to escape, while Vera's men followed close behind. Eventually, they managed to find refuge in an abandoned warehouse, but both knew that this was only a temporary respite. Vera had shown how far she was willing to go, and Arthur understood that they could not continue running. It was time to fight back. The abandoned warehouse was shrouded in deathly silence, broken only by Arthur and Sophia's rapid breathing. Outside, Vera's men were still searching, but Luciana, with her security team, had managed to distract them long enough to give them time. Despite their relative safety, they both knew they couldn't stay there for long. While Arthur was checking his phone trying to contact Luciana, Sophia, still clinging to her backpack, broke the silence. "This is my fault," he muttered, his gaze fixed on the ground. "If you hadn't found me, you wouldn't be in this situation." Arthur shook his head, his voice firm but reassuring. "It's not your fault, Sophia. This goes way beyond us. Vera has been playing this game since before you came into my life. The important thing now is to find a way to end it." Suddenly, Arthur's phone vibrated. It was a message from Luciana. "Please confirm your location. We're close, but there's something else you need to know." When Luciana arrived at the scene a few minutes later, her face reflected concern. She was carrying documents and a serious expression. "Arthur, we have a bigger problem than we thought," he began, placing the papers on a rusty table. "One of your partners, someone very close to you, is involved with Vera. This is the reason why her network has managed to operate without problems within your company." Arthur felt a knot in his stomach when he heard those words. "Who?" he asked, his voice tense. Luciana hesitated for a moment before answering. "Marcelo." The impact of that revelation was like a blow. Marcelo was one of his oldest partners, someone Arthur had trusted completely. The betrayal hurt, but it also clarified many things. Arthur clenched his fists, determined to confront him. "Where is he now?" he asked. Luciana pointed to her phone. "We've located him. He's in his office. If we want to expose Vera, he's our best chance. He knows her operation from the inside, and we can pressure him into cooperating." Arthur nodded, his mind already forming a plan. Before he left, he turned to Sophia. "I want you to stay with Luciana. You'll be safer with her." But Sophia vehemently denied it. "No, this is also my fight. I will not be left behind." Arthur hesitated for a moment, but seeing the determination in Sophia's eyes, he finally agreed. He knew he wouldn't be able to convince her otherwise. When they arrived at Marcelo's office, the tension was palpable. Arthur burst in unannounced, finding Marcelo sitting behind his desk, surprised by the unexpected visitor. "Arthur, what are you doing here?" Marcelo asked, trying to sound calm. Arthur wasted no time. "We know what you're doing, Marcelo. I know you've been working with Vera. This is your chance to redeem yourself. Tell me everything you know, or make sure this is the last time you set foot in this office." Marcelo tried to deny the accusations at first, but under pressure from Arthur and in Luciana's presence, he finally confessed. He revealed crucial details about Vera's operations, her contacts, and her plan to recover the device. "If you decide to cooperate, we can protect you," Arthur said, his tone still cold. "But if you try to play with us, there will be no turning back." Marcelo, aware that he had lost, agreed to collaborate. He provided information that would be crucial for the next move, a direct attack on Vera's operations center. As the night progressed, Arthur, Sophia, and Luciana knew they were nearing the end. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the stakes were higher than ever. Marcelo's betrayal had been a blow, but also an opportunity. Now, with the cards on the table, all that was left was to face the danger head-on. Arthur, Sophia, Luciana, and their security team met at the mansion to plot their next move. The information Marcelo had provided was invaluable. Vera's operations center was located in an industrial warehouse on the outskirts of São Paulo. There, she stored documents, technology, and incriminating evidence that could link her to a criminal network of international reach. The device Sophia was jealously guarding was the key to accessing the warehouse's security systems. Arthur, confident in Sophia's abilities, asked her to crack the final levels of encryption. She agreed, displaying astonishing technical prowess. "Where did you learn to do this?" Arthur asked as he watched her working in front of a computer. "My father taught me," Sophia replied without taking her eyes off the screen. "He said that information was power and that I should know how to protect myself." Arthur nodded, impressed. Even though the situation was dire, he couldn't help but admire the young woman's strength and intelligence. Meanwhile, Luciana coordinated operational details with the security team. They knew they could not rely on local authorities, many of whom were compromised with Vera's network. Every step had to be carefully calculated. Finally, after hours of preparation, Sophia managed to access the device's systems. The information revealed the warehouse's surveillance schedules, entry points, and escape routes. It was a risky plan, but it was her best chance. Arthur gathered everyone in the main room to outline the strategy. "Here's what we'll do," he said, pointing to a map projected on the wall. "Sophia and I will enter the warehouse to extract the necessary data. Luciana and the team will cover the perimeters and secure the escape routes. We can't fail. This has to be fast and clean." Sophia raised her hand, interrupting. "I want to be clear. If something goes wrong, I will not let the device fall into Vera's hands. If necessary, I will destroy it." Arthur stared at her before nodding. "I understand, but we won't let that happen." As night fell, the group prepared for the mission. On the way to the warehouse, the atmosphere in the vehicle was tense, but full of determination. Arthur looked at Sophia, sitting next to him, and gave her a slight smile. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." She didn't answer immediately, but her lips formed a small smile. Upon reaching the warehouse, the team dispersed as planned. Arthur and Sophia managed to infiltrate using the codes they had deciphered. Inside, the flickering lights and echoing footsteps created an oppressive atmosphere. Sophia worked quickly at a central console, transferring the necessary data while Arthur kept watch. However, the calm was interrupted when the alarms were unexpectedly activated. Vera, always one step ahead, had anticipated their move. "Hurry up, Sophia!" Arthur shouted as the sound of hurried footsteps drew closer. Nerves frayed, Sophia managed to complete the transfer at the last second. They both made their way to the exit, facing a hail of gunfire and Vera's men trying to stop them. Outside, Luciana and the security team sprang into action, covering Arthur and Sophia's escape. The chase was intense, but they eventually managed to escape with the data in hand. Back at the mansion, as they reviewed the files they had obtained, everyone understood the magnitude of what they had accomplished. The data contained irrefutable evidence that could dismantle Vera's network and expose her accomplices. However, they also knew that the final showdown was near and that Vera would not be stopped so easily. "We did it," said Sophia, exhausted but with a spark of hope in her eyes. Arthur nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning, but we are closer than we have ever been." The battle was far from over, but hope and determination burned brighter than ever. The city woke up covered in a thick fog, as if anticipating the imminent clash between Arthur and Vera. At the mansion, the team worked tirelessly, preparing the last pieces of the plan. The data obtained from the warehouse not only exposed Vera, but also compromised multiple influential figures in São Paulo, including some linked to Arthur's company. "If this goes well, we'll not only take down Vera, but her entire network," Arthur said, looking at the screens where the collected data was displayed. Sophia, at his side, was carefully reviewing the files. Although the fatigue was evident on her face, her determination had not diminished. "This isn't just about me or my father," she said quietly. "It's about all the people who suffered because of her." Arthur nodded, acknowledging the young woman's bravery. They both knew that the final confrontation would be dangerous, but they had no other choice. The confrontation was planned in detail. Vera, confident in her immunity and power, had called a meeting at a luxury hotel in the city center, where she planned to negotiate with her allies to regain control after the recent leaks. Arthur decided to take that opportunity to confront her directly. With Luciana in charge of the operation, the team infiltrated the hotel, using the device's data to disable the security systems. Arthur, impeccably dressed, entered the main hall as if he were just another guest. Vera, surprised but not intimidated, greeted him with a cold smile. "Arthur Montero," he said in a mocking tone, "I suppose you have come to give yourself up. You know you can't win." Arthur, keeping calm, replied, "I didn't come to give up. I came to finish this." At that moment, the screens in the lounge lit up, displaying the incriminating data of Vera's criminal network. Luciana, from an improvised control room, had hacked into the hotel system, making sure that everyone present saw the magnitude of the crimes. Chaos erupted. Vera's allies began to leave the meeting, aware that their names were also in jeopardy. Some tried to negotiate with Arthur, but he ignored them, focusing on Vera. "This is over," Arthur said, approaching her. However, Vera was not one to give up easily. With a quick movement, she activated a device in her bag, calling out her armed men who were in the building. But Arthur had already anticipated this move. His security team intercepted the reinforcements, making sure they couldn't reach the hall. Meanwhile, Sophia, who had followed Arthur, decided to confront Vera directly. "Do you remember my father?" she asked, her voice shaking with rage. Vera, for the first time, showed an expression of surprise. "You," he murmured. "Yes, I'm Sophia, and I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you did." In a decisive move, Sophia took the device she had protected for so long and connected it to the hotel system, sending the information directly to the authorities and the media. Within minutes, sirens began to sound outside the building. Cornered, Vera tried to escape, but Arthur and Sophia blocked her way out. The authorities arrived, arresting not only Vera, but also several of her accomplices. As they watched the police take Vera away in handcuffs, Arthur looked at Sophia with a mixture of pride and relief. "We did it," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you," Sophia replied, showing a genuine smile for the first time. Vera's network had been dismantled and the truth had finally come to light. However, they both knew that their lives would never be the same again. The news of the fall of Vera and his criminal network spread like wildfire throughout São Paulo. The images of his arrest, together with the incriminating data that had been published, shook the foundations of the city's elites. Arthur Monteiro, previously known only for his business success, was now recognized as someone who had exposed corruption, even at the expense of his own company. In the days that followed, Monteiro and Associados underwent a complete overhaul. Arthur resigned from his position as CEO, leaving an ethics committee to take over. His decision was widely debated, but he knew it was the right thing to do. "It's time for real change, and I can't lead that change from within," he explained to Luciana as he signed the final documents. Luciana, faithful as ever, pledged to help with the transition. Though her loyalty to Arthur never wavered, she admired his ability to prioritize the common good over his own interests. Sophia, meanwhile, was beginning to adjust to a more stable life. After so much time on the run, the idea of staying in one place was strange, but also comforting. Arthur offered her to stay at the mansion, not as a guest, but as part of the family. "This place is yours too if you want it," he told her one day while they were spending a quiet afternoon in the garden. Sophia looked at him gratefully, though she was still cautious. "Thank you, Arthur, for everything. But I also want to learn to take care of myself." Arthur nodded, respecting her decision. "I will always be here to support you, but I also understand that you need your independence. When you are ready, I will take the next step with you." In the weeks that followed, Sophia began exploring her options. With Arthur's help, she enrolled in an educational program to further develop her skills in technology. Her natural talent not only gave her an advantage, but also motivated her to use her knowledge to help others. Meanwhile, Arthur devoted his time to working with charities and social justice projects. The experience with Sophia and Vera's network had transformed his perspective. He was no longer interested in just business success, but in creating a positive impact in the community. One day, while walking through the city, Sophia stopped in front of a community center that was in urgent need of support. She looked at Arthur and smiled. "We could start here," he suggested. Arthur, with a calm smile, replied, "It's a good place to start." Together, they began working on a project to teach technology to vulnerable youth, inspired by Sophia's own experiences. Their collaboration not only strengthened their relationship, but also allowed them to give back to society. Although the road had not been easy, both found in each other a new opportunity. Arthur and Sophia understood that no matter how difficult the past had been, there was always room to build something better. The bond that united them continued to strengthen over time, and although the challenges would never completely disappear, they were both ready to face them together. The story of Arthur and Sophia teaches us that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead us to find our true purpose. Arthur risked everything to protect someone he barely knew, while Sophia learned to trust and find strength in adversity. What about you? If you were in their place, would you risk your stability to do the right thing? What would you have done if you discovered that your legacy was tied to something dark? Click on the video on screen to continue exploring stories that invite us to reflect and grow. Every decision counts in building who we are. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these incredible life lessons. See you in the next video.